Well, thought I was gone for another few months, did you? Wrong. Well, it's time for me to get my thoughts on the newest crop of Buffalo Bills. They went defense, but why didn't they go for more offense? Well, boys, it's that time of year again. It's time to review the newest crop of Buffalo Bills, 2011 style, and I should say lockout style. This whole thing is really bugging me to no end, that they gotta try to resolve this thing in the courts. You wonder if there's gonna be pro football this year. Well, it would be a real loss if this lockout consumes the 2011 season. Although I hope for better things, like maybe the Bills finally getting to the playoffs. Wishful thinking indeed, but the truth is I think the Bills are still a year away. Well, let's look at what happened this past week in Bills land, folks. 9 new members of the Buffalo Bills are now in the fold, and it looks like this year Buddy Nix decided to concentrate on the defensive side of the ball. Now let's take a look at them, shall we? For their first pick, the 3rd overall, I was kind of hoping that they would have Chevy Von Miller from Texas A&M coming into the fold. But of course, Denver snatched him up with the 2nd pick. But we got a nice consolation prize, I think. The number 3 pick, a big guy from the Crimson Tide, Marcel Darius. He's one defensive tackle who can play anywhere on the line, be it tackle, be it end. He could stuff the run anywhere, and Buffalo was pretty putrid stuffing the run last year, and they need a body like him. But you know, this Marcel, I hope he didn't come along once in a blue moon, if you know what I mean. Bomb to bomb, 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 bomb to bomb to bomb, dang a dang dang, ding a dong ding. Blue moon. Gotta work on my singing style a little bit. As you know, he's gotta replace that bust we picked 2 years ago. And to quote a Samantha Fox song I heard for the first time in almost 10 years this past weekend, Mybin, just Mybin, naughty girls need love too. Boy, that's a bad Cockney accent, but I'm not going to go into a dance number like Miss Fox. But let's get along with the rest of the picks, shall we? I was thinking in round 2 they were going to go for a quarterback, as Andy Dalton and Colin Kaepernick were still there, but Buffalo decided to pass on those two, just like they passed on Blaine Gabbert in the first round, although I had my doubts. Their pick, announced by good old Andre Reed, who should be in the Hall of Fame, cornerback Aaron Williams out of Texas. He's what they call a tweener. He can play either cornerback or safety. And the thing is, once they do get all these issues with the lockout resolved and free agency kicks in, Buffalo could lose as many as 4 or 5 players out of their secondary. So I could see Nix's rationale in getting him. He seems to be a pretty good cornerback, but the thing is maybe he'd be more suited to safety. And the thing is, Texas's secondary last year wasn't exactly the best, but Williams was the best of the crop, because Texas, for the first time in a long time, had a losing season. Of course, you wonder whether people are going to hook 'em horns. But let's get back, shall we? Their 3rd pick, a guy who could help it in the linebacker core and maybe start with the Puzzlesnian Devil. Although the Puzzlesnian Devil is a free agent this year, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. He likes it in Buffalo. He likes it when I go. All right, enough with the Looney Tunes. Let's welcome Kelvin Shepard to the Buffalo Bills. He's a pretty good linebacker, and he could fit right in with some of their schemes. Thing is, could he be a better one against the pass than Posluszny? Because Posluszny shows he can do good against the run, but covering receivers, that's another story. But you know, this shepherd can tend to his flock, if you know what I mean. Well, let's go on. For the first of their two number 4 picks, they reach back into the secondary and get a guy from the Tar Heels, Denoris Searcy. He's a true safety, and if what I hear holds true that Dante Whitner could be gone in free agency, Searcy can step right in. But you gotta wonder if Denoris, I wonder if somebody could call him Chuck Denoris Searcy. Although Mr. Norris might give me a roundhouse kick for that. Let's see him on Walker, Texas Rangers, shall we? For their second number 4 pick, a guy who's a real big sleeper, if you know what I mean, in a big way. Chris Hairston out of Clemson. Hairston could jump right in on the offensive line, and as I said, he's a sleeper, a massive sleeper. 6'7", 330 pounds. And he could jump right in, make Demetrius Bell move over to another position on that offensive line. Hairston could be a real good upgrade for a line that has been a bad one. And I will say, that's been a weak link. But not the weakest link, if you ask me. Goodbye. Enough with game shows. For their pick in the 5th round, I have to do this to Buddy Nix. Yeah, we already got C.J. Spiller and we already got Fred Jackson. Why get another running back? Well, we did. We go to North Carolina and select Johnny White. He's not a speedster like Spiller, but he's a good run between the tackles type running back. He could come in certain situations and provide depth behind Jackson and behind Spiller. And he also has, from what I heard, been a good contributor on special teams. But you gotta wonder, why pick another running back, Nix? Why couldn't you have picked a tight end or a quarterback? Well, we'll have to ask him to answer that question. For their 6th round pick, they got another White, if you know what I mean, but I want to be in the black. But this guy from Mississippi State is a good plugger at linebacker, Chris White. He could step right in and provide some depth for our linebacker core. And he also is, what I heard, a good contributor on special teams. Let's see how he does. Now to the 7th round. And they go to the secondary again. Their 3rd pick from the secondary. They went to a guy who was a member of the Richmond Spiders championship team in the FCS from 2 years ago, Justin Rogers. But you gotta wonder, 3 secondary picks? Buddy Nix doesn't think Buffalo is gonna lose that many players from the secondary and free agency, does he? Oh well, I digress. And this Rogers, I don't think he's related to, but you gotta wonder about the Rogers here in Seneca Falls. Whether they say, hey, we got a cousin on the team, but there's many Rogers in the United States. And I don't think Jeff or Sidney would like that, especially with Sidney on a championship caliber Minder softball team. But let's get back to the last pick for the Bills. And I call this guy Road Grader, because that's exactly what he could be. Michael Jasper, a defensive tackle out of tiny Bethel College in Tennessee. And you'll see what I mean by a road grader when you take a look at him. This guy is 6'4", 394 pounds. But the thing is, I heard last year he played at close to 440 pounds. Yet he was still pretty agile enough to stop the run. but he lost about 50, 60 pounds and got quicker. This guy runs 5'4" or 5'5" in the 40-yard dash. Pretty good for someone who's almost 400 pounds. And they say he can engulf the run. But Bethel College in Tennessee is a long way from the pros. Let's see how Mr. Jasper can adjust to the pros, shall we? And there's my look at Buffalo's 9 draft picks. But there's one thing I noticed. Given that both Buddy Nix and Chan Gailey are from south of the Mason-Dixon line, as you can tell from the way they talk, all 9 of Buffalo's picks are from south of the Mason-Dixon line. You gotta wonder if this is playing in the Buffalo Bills war room. Alright, enough with the Southern, shall we? This may be the 150th anniversary of the Civil War, but we don't need to whistle Dixie up here, if you know what I mean. The whole thing, my point is, this is Southern fried, and I don't mean chicken, because you know how Foghorn Leghorn would think. Ken, what are you talking about Southern fried? Yeah, I'm a chicken hawk and I gotta have chicken. And by the way, look for me in maybe some new threads next year for the Bills, as they're coming out with new uniforms that harken back to their years in the late 70s and early 80s. Good retro look, especially when they were on Fast Freddie Smirlis, Joe Cribbs, Frank Lewis, Isaiah Robertson, and all those other good Bills from that era. Well, just tell me what you think for my probable last show in this Drew Bledsoe uniform. But that's my look at the Buffalo Bills 2011 draft. I'm Ken Haas, and probably till August, unless Syracuse makes it to the Final Four. And by the way, great win against Notre Dame for the SU men's lacrosse team. Until then, I'll see ya.